I'm Louis Self. I'm the producer of this fantastic show, I hope. And I want to thank you for coming. Thanks, Casa Grande, for being so hospitable. And if you're new to live stand-up comedy, you need to understand a couple things. You don't visit during the show. It's not polite. Besides, if you explain a joke to Elsa, she'll have to, you both miss the next joke. And then Anna will have to explain it to both of you. Pretty soon even Olaf doesn't know what's going on. Some of you have seen Frozen, I see. That's cool. Also, turn your cell phones off. One time mine started during a show, and that was so embarrassing that I always checked mine like that. And I had gotten a new a new phone, and I didn't even know how to turn it off. So that was a mess. Anyway, also, thank you for laughing. Also, don't you like my background music? Anyway, if you like what you see, tell your friends, because January 15th I'm going to be doing a show in Coolidge, and come to that. If you don't like what you see, tell your mother-in-law. Or today's society, I probably ought to say, tell your ex. Our comedian tonight has done comedy in 50 states. His 50th state was Alaska. It was cool. and they gave him a place to stay by a lake. Isn't that beautiful? Well, what they did is they pulled a camp trailer up by the water and said, here, this is yours for the week. that was kind of neat. He's done comedy in 5 countries. Nobody said he's funny, but he sure has been busy. This is his 1,136th appearance. Thank you very much. And you know what that proves? That proves he can count. And he's got merchandise. If you're interested, all profits go to the Boy Scouts, so you'll know that. He's got T-shirts. They're $10. Posters are $5 signed, so they're around here. And the big poster out front, if someone wants to sponsor that, it costs $30. So you pay $30 and take the poster. It'll be yours after the show, and he'll sign it. And, he's got pictures. They make excellent target practice. If you're curious where he's been, these are some of the places he's done stand-up comedy. So please put your hands together for retired school teacher, America's favorite old man, Arizona Lou. Hi, I'm Arizona Lou. Thanks for letting an old guy up here. You ask how old? How old? You don't care, do you? 78. Now let's hear it by applause if you can beat that. I know we can. We've got some people who can beat 78. All right. Now, what branch of service did you serve in?
U.S. Army.
What? Oh, Army. Well, all right. Well, I need to explain something to you. This gentleman's name is Dale, you may know. Anyway, I need to explain something to you that I asked for an applause. This doesn't cut it.
Oh.
An applause takes 2 hands and makes noise. But since you're from the Army, we'll excuse that. You're a fast learner, though. Well, I do silly stuff at my age, like trying to still be alive for the next hour. Also, I worry a lot about what's going to fall off or come off. And my last name isn't even Jenner. I spend a lot more time in front of the mirror than I used to looking for body parts. They're not saggy or wrinkled. I'm so wrinkled, the other day I had trouble adjusting my whitey-tighties until I realized I wasn't wearing any. You people are great. We're going to have fun. And if I'm, let's kind of get acquainted here. Let's hear it by applause if you served in the Air Force. Anybody? All right, all right. You know, you guys were late coming to the game. Well, you had to wait for them to invent airplanes. Let's hear it by applause if you served in the Navy. All right. You know, did you know Navy is an acronym? N-A-V-Y. It stands for Never Again Volunteer Yourself. Let's hear it by applause if you served in the Army.
Airborne.
Did you know Army's an acronym? You know what it stands for? Aren't really Marines yet. I noticed the Marines were particularly laughing. Let's hear it if you served in the Marines.
Yeah!
Did you know Marines is an acronym too? Muscles are required, intellect not essential. Or in case of one person here, but we won't say who, it means intelligence never encountered. If I'm lucky, I remember what I want to say tonight. If you're lucky, I'll wander off somewhere. Silver alert, silver alert. You know, I could become famous. I could be on one of those electronic highway signs. I just love those things. You know, you can get distracted without even using your cell phone or without even any roadhead. Now, if you don't know what that is, you don't want to know what it is. Well, they tell you things that are so important for you to know for your driving. Like, put on your mask. Yeah, I really need to do that right now. How many miles to an intersection that you don't care about and don't know how far it is, and if you did, you could divide by the minutes and multiply by 60 to get to the miles per hour. Or you could watch what you're doing. In Pennsylvania, they had one that said, motorcycles. Anybody here ride mics? Motorcycles. Orange, you glad you look? Well, I did at the sign and have no idea how many I took out in the meantime. I just hope I don't wander off to Chicago. Did you see the latest news there? Shootings are up 88% over last year. Murders are up too, but only 72%. Obviously, we need to give Chicago more gun classes. I'm cheap. Well, I economize. I made some stupid decisions when I was young, but not too many so that I can just enjoy retired life now. And I got new shoes. The most expensive, well, they're almost new. I got the most expensive shoes I've ever paid for. To find them, I went to Fountain Hills. And, yep, $25 at the Goodwill. And to economize, I flew to Miami to do some comedy. Since I was paying my own way, I flew basic economy. Let's hear it if you've ever flown basic economy. Okay, yeah. Now, for the rest of you people, you rich people, let me explain. Basic economy is where you're last to get on the airplane. After the standbys and the homeless, and when you get on, all the overhead space is gone with the wind. Now I need to explain to you scouts back there at the table, Gone with the Wind is an old movie with Renton Scarlett in it. And they put me in a little narrow middle seat, which is okay because I have a little narrow middle butt. When I got settled in, I noticed coming down the aisle was a BBW. Now, do you know what a BBW stands for? Big, beautiful woman. Now, I could tell by her waddle that she was really proud of her big butt. So that means it was a BBWBB. The first person I ever saw who had a close encounter of the third kind with both seats on both sides of the aisle at the same time. And she had her eye on the seat next to me. Well, I tried to sneak the armrest down as a defensive maneuver. And when she sat down in that seat, it shifted the CG of the airplane. All it took was 7 seatbelt extensions. She wouldn't have needed any of them because she was wedged in so tight she wasn't going anywhere except to Miami. I did learn, she was a nice lady, had a nice visit, but I did learn the only time I could take her breath was when she would exhale. Colonoscopy. I don't know what's funny about that, but in comedy we call that a real bad segue. But let's hear it by applause if you're over 45. Let's keep it going if you're over 45 and you've had your colonoscopy. The rest of you, you better hop to it because they save lives. And you young people, put it on your electronic calendar so that, you know what? I've got a good idea here. If you scouts will turn your chair toward the front, you won't have to be corner-wise while you're... Yeah. Okay, yeah, that way you'll be able to see better. And if I get the mic working, we'll be okay. Yeah, colonoscopy. I had my latest colonoscopy without anesthesia. Now, anybody else? Oh, and I'll do it again next time. It was fun. Well, went the extra mile on the prep. The day before I did some exercises with a butt plug. I don't know if the doctor noticed or appreciated it. But his little scope was, well, it was kind of like a little train going through a little tunnel with a bright light, with a high-def HDR camera, with pincers for picking off a polyp. He found one little tiny one. And air hose for pumping up around the tight corners. He said, Lou, if it starts to get painful, let me know and I'll slow down the inflation a little. So I did, and he did. That was okay. Oh, yes. And garden hose for washing things off, and then for cleaning it all up, a shop vac. So that's kind of what it was like. He said, I asked him for a play-by-play account of what he was doing, and he told me it was interesting. First thing before he went in, he said, Lou, I'm going to use some numbing gel. I didn't stop him in time. Wouldn't regular Jill be more fun? And after it was all over, he said, Lou, I feel you're full of gas now. You can pass it. I was surprised. I couldn't. And in that area, I'm usually so talented. One other thing about the colonoscopy I was going to mention. I'll think of it later when I'm on a different subject. I was part of a study sponsored by Stanford University of back pain and posture at the EGOSCU in Phoenix. EGOSCU, doesn't that sound like they invented a new virus of some sort? Well, Carson there said, examine my pelvis real carefully. Oh, he had his mouth closed. Lou, your right hip is lower than your left hip. Well, Carson, I can take care of that. Oh, Lou, you need more curve in your spine. Well, I can take care of that too. Oh, and Lou, your shoulders need to be back more. They're rounded. I can take care of everything, Carson. What's wrong with that guy? I don't know, but he sure has good posture. I had kind of a tough childhood. I was a middle child. Anybody else here a middle child? All right. Well, then you know what I'm talking about. Well, listen up, the rest of you people. Stanley, my older brother, lived in Hutchinson, Kansas. And that's where, a while back, we lost him. Look, never did find him. I guess he forgot to click his heels together. Oh, for the scout table for you young guys, pay attention up here. That's an old movie with a scarecrow and a little dog in it. Well, Stanley was into supplements. He took 30 of them every day. And now he has the healthiest prostate of anybody in the Greenwood Cemetery. Some of you people like that dark stuff, don't you? He was into real estate. Well, if you count one duplex that was still standing only because the left half was leaning against the right half. And anybody here a landlord own any rental properties? Anybody here rent? Anybody here live in a house? You poor people. Well, he let Billy stay there rent-free in exchange for fixing up the place. You can imagine how that went. Billy moved in a carload of cockroaches. No, that's not funny. It's not true either. It was worse. He moved in his girlfriend, Dawn. At least I think that's what was under all those tattoos. She was so wrinkled it was hard to tell. No wonder she was a chain smoker. Anybody here smoke any chains? Oh, but she had a winning smile, if you count 3 teeth. But they were excellent as a cigarette holder. She could puff her way right through a Kansas tornado. Oh, for you young people, that's the same movie with the scarecrow and the little dog. Well, us old people tend to get lost and forget stuff. I got lost driving here with my GPS. Now, who knows what a GPS stands for? What?
Oh, wait, no, never mind, I don't remember.
Neither do I forgot. And I have an excuse because I'm old. No, he had guts to volunteer an answer when he didn't know. I like him.
That's right.
Well, in my case, well, some of your grandparents, it may be Grandpa's Super. Or if you're from San Francisco, gay and perfectly satisfied. Or in my case, maybe geezer, plain and stupid. Stupid like, well, the other day I picked up my electric toothbrush from where I dropped it and rinsed it off and brushed my teeth. Hey, I was just standing there. I hadn't done anything yet. It's waterproof. I rinsed it off, and every week I cleaned the toilet. With the strongest stuff you can buy. Thanks to the EPA, the strongest stuff doesn't really clean it. It just makes it smell blue. Well, after that, my mother used to always say, Louis, hold your horses. Anybody remember that? Yeah. That was even, you guys haven't do, okay, you ride horse. All right, well, forget that. She said, hold your horses. Then in the 70s, during the space age, it was cool your jets. And what do you say nowadays? If you want someone to chill out, take a chill out. Any new recent ideas there back from the scout table? Slow your roll, maybe. Yeah, chill. Well, let me interpret that to some of you older people. Don't have a rack attack. Now this table needs to understand that means calm your tits. Or if you go to Hawaii, hakuna your tatas. You know, holding things somewhere between the horses and the jets, it was hold the phone. Now I need to explain to the scout table, that's singular because there was only one phone. And it was fastened to the house with a wire.
What's a wire?
It's like a dog chain, but without the dog. And a plug on one end. Oh, that reminds me, Don in Stan's rental, I never saw Billy because he was in government housing. Don called it jail. Her pride and joy was not her big flat panel TV she had blaring in the living room all the time. It was the long cord that she used to plug it in at the neighbors. She was fancy. She had a curved shower rod fastened to the outside of the house so her daughter could use the garden hose because nothing worked inside. Well, let's see, I believe I was talking about holding things. You know, hold the phone. Well, today, hold the phone means something entirely different. It means, here's my cell phone. Watch my video. Oh, don't hold it like that. You might send it to Telephone Never Land. Oh, don't hold it by the edge. You might put it in the mode to explode. So you have to, if you can find some new batteries, you might be running a little low or need to change mics. Yep. It might be what I'm doing, but I think it might be batteries. So you have to cradle it on the top of your hand. How many have done that, dropped your phone and broken the screen? Anybody? Yeah. Now the rest of you need to watch a little more porn. Or maybe some Sesame Street. Thank you. This is not any better. Okay, we'll keep going with this one. Or Sesame Street. Now, there's the way I held my first grandchild. All it took was 10 seconds for me to understand crazy grandparents. But there's other ways to hold grandkids. This one leaks. Or, here, mommy, stinky baby. Or when they get a little older, you can hold them like this. I hate ceiling fans. Last week I lost 3. Oh, they still run, but they're not balanced anymore. I've got t-shirts. You get a t-shirt. They're $10. All profits go to the Boy Scouts here. So it's like giving money to the Boy Scouts. I also have stickers. And I'll sign the sticker for a $5 donation. That is a donation. $5, I'll sign the sticker. It goes to the Boy Scouts. $1 will get you a sticker. That's a donation too. In fact, I'll sign anything for $5. No, not down there. Or if I'm to a church audience, no, not your kids.
Get your $10.
Yeah, search it. And I've got your size. Actually, the biggest size, the big sizes are $20 because they cost more, and I go up to a 6X. Folks, that is a car cover, a real bargain. Well, there's some things at my age I just don't understand. I was with some comedians in a restaurant, and Bill Lukowski belted out, "Avery, get your hands off my jewel." Now, I didn't know you could spell that J-U-U-L. The only kind I knew about was the family type jewels. What did I miss? What was Avery doing with his hands? And poor Bill with only one jewel? What was he doing with it up on the table? I just don't understand. Some other things I just don't understand. Why does Sony make such crappy keyboards? I was blogging when I went to the Dominican Republic. It left out the L. I called it the Dominican Republic. There went my reputation, like I had one after that stinky baby joke. I excitedly texted my daughter that I just got booked for 3 minutes at Harris Showroom. I read the email, it left out the K, and I actually wrote, I just got booed for 3 minutes. I don't understand why they make the backs of television sets all black. Plugging in or hooking up your equipment's like plugging your hard pin into a black hole. Then when you get the wrong hole, you say, I meant to do it that way. Some people aim, like in San Francisco, aim for the wrong hole because they like it that way. I went kiteboarding in Maui. Now you wonder what that is? That's an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Yes, yeah, who said Pacific? Good for you. Most audiences, they just let it go. Some people nod their head. I got the wrong ocean. That's an island in the middle of the ocean. Oh, kiteboarding? That's where you're flying a huge kite up in the wind while it's pulling on a wakeboard or a surfboard. It's awesome. I've got videos about it on my website, arizonalou.com. Or you can Google America's favorite old man. I'll be number 1. And who knows, you might be number 2. Especially if I keep picking on you, huh?
Sure. Let's give you a lot of room.
When I went there, I saw an 85-year-old guy getting a kiteboard lesson. I took care of him, and now I'm the oldest surviving kiteboarder. Unfortunately, we didn't have the usual wind, so I did a lot of SUP. You know what SUP is? How many have heard of stand-up paddleboarding, SUP? As opposed to what I do up here, SUC. Well, that's SUC, stand-up comedy. Well, it was tough. My first challenge was getting the board across the beach into the sand. I mean, across the beach into the water. And it actually went pretty well until I got stuck in the sand with my little electric rascal scooter. So I decided to hold the board sideways, and that went pretty well until I took out a mother breastfeeding a baby, bing, pew, who was offending an old man until I took him out. Solved that social problem. Well, then I decided to hold the board under my arm and use the handle. It was so shallow, it would be a stretch to have called it a fingal. But at least I had the other hand available. I could hold my paddle and scratch whatever was necessary. When I finally got the board down into the water, my trick was to go from my knees to standing up. And I usually demonstrate how that went, but if I do it down here, you people won't be able to see me. So let's just say it was a challenge learning to balance and stand up on the board. I should have had a walker. I really did get away, though, from a lifeguard. Hey, this beach is closed to old men with big boards and little tiny Speedos. But I really did get away there in the Kailua Harbor. I rode that little wave 565 feet. My nurse never caught me. Well, then coming back on Hawaiian Airlines, I got very well acquainted with the airline restrooms. At our age, we need to take advantage of those things. And I declare the Boeing engineer says, hey, let's measure people and make our bathrooms 3 inches smaller. And then they situated them so the wall is curved. You have to stand like this to be in position. And you're really out of space if you are a young guy with a boner. Accidentally, of course. It gives a whole new meaning to hitting the wall. And then, once you do your thing, you notice the faucets don't have any delay. So to try to get your hand under the faucet while the water's still running, it's kind of like the last time you had diarrhea. You're not going to get there in time. And then the paper towel dispenser opening is smaller than the paper towels, and the spring's so strong you're guaranteed to get confetti. And then the waste door spring is so strong you get the confetti back in your face. Well, for me it looks something like this. You know what I just did, ladies? I just raised the toilet seat, and you hardly even noticed. And I wouldn't have had to, because nobody would have known. Besides, I'm in this bathroom by myself. And it's an imaginary bathroom. I'm going to do it again, and I want to hear some encouragement. Were you encouraging me?
A little bit.
Whose side are you on, anyway? Then when you take care of your business, have you ever noticed the flush is so violent that the paper towel blows in the wind? No, not that kind of wind. That was the person before me. Well, then my next trip was a road trip to Hatteras Island. Let's hear it by applause if you've heard of Hatteras Island. The Outer Banks. Okay, Kitty Hawk. We're getting more. The Wright brothers. Airplanes. We got one guy back there that's either asleep or doesn't know anything. They're all located off the coast of North Carolina with some of the best wind and kiteboarding conditions in the world. And when I'm there, some of the best comedy. And so out there on the Outer Banks, when there wasn't enough wind to kiteboard, my friend Tim and I would do SUP, stand-up paddleboarding. Well, I was barely able to balance on my board. He was on his doing yoga for the flexibility. I think he was showing off. Let's hear it by applause if you've ever done any yoga. Okay, cool. And your name?
Noah Bennett.
Noah?
Yes.
Okay, Noah, namaste.
Namaste.
Now, no one knows. Let me explain for the rest of you people. That's yoga talk for howdy, partner. Well, Heather, our instructor, said, just relax. Well, she had us holding a 2x4. Now, you yoga types call that the plank position. That's like me telling you to relax with one foot at the dock and the other on the boat. I go down farther when I hurt myself. Or drag them on the floor. No, that's not funny at all. And the hardest for me was the doggy style. You yoga types call that the downward facing dog. And that wasn't all I had to hold. I had a pesky methane bubble that desperately wanted to reach the atmosphere. Now, a couple of you know that that is a fart. With concerted effort, I was able to hold it. But someone during the class, well, let's say I wasn't the only one with a pesky methane bubble. Someone let one escape. It was one of those minimal displacement, extended duration, high amplitude expulsions. You call that a long, loud, you got it. I started to laugh until I realized I was the only one. And that's when I realized you gotta know when to hold them. I just about lost these 3 fingers kiteboarding, actually not kiteboarding the Dominican Republic. I should have stayed kiteboarding, instead I went SUP, stand-up paddleboarding. Now, it takes real talent to lose fingers almost stand-up paddleboarding. But I stepped off the board, a little isolated beach, and saw a little wave gonna come in and flip my board over. I didn't want to chase the board, so I grabbed a loop of rope at the back of the board and held on tight. I said, I can win this bout with Mother Nature. Well, the wave flipped the board over, wrapping the rope around my hand, and then slammed it. I won. I still had the board, but not all my hand. My index finger was dangling by some skin. And, oh, that was good news. I knew where my finger was. Think how embarrassing it would have been otherwise. Hey, has anybody around here seen your finger? He's got it. Catch that crab. Well, I put my finger back on the stump, and you know, something you ladies might appreciate. I noticed, although I broke my first and only 2 bones so far, I didn't break 1 fingernail. I decided I needed some help, so I used my extensive Spanish vocabulary. Emergency, yeah. Young guy put my board where be safe so I could go out to the little road and hitchhike into town. And I couldn't even do that right. I mean, I couldn't make a fist with my hand. They thought I was waving. Buenas tardes. Second car just went past me. Well, will you stop for a barefoot guy wearing only wet black hat, little red blood, and little black Speedos? The third car did stop. It was John Paul. And you remember when your mother used to always tell you, always wear clean underwear in case you have to go to the hospital. So we stopped by my hotel room and I put on a grubby t-shirt because it was the only thing that was handy. Put my cargo shorts up all over my swim trunks, which was stupid and embarrassing because John Paul had to tuck me in. When I finally they sewed my fingers back on, there's some pictures at the bottom, go to the bottom of the web page and you can see what it looked like. When they dismissed me from the hospital and I got back to the hotel room, I could still use my hand. It made a good hat rack. These 3 fingers were all splintered and bandaged. I could do the wave. I could change TV channels. But unfortunately, since I'm right-handed, I couldn't engage in my favorite evening activity while I'm on the internet. Holding my pencil and taking notes. And that's the reason I hold the microphone with my left hand mostly, because my right hand's got problems. So that's, now you know more than you really wanted to know. I save boxes. Anybody here save boxes? Let's hear everybody if you save boxes. Anybody? Now, do I need to explain to you about what an applause is? He missed that. Anyway, the rest of you who don't save boxes, you don't read your instructions. The instructions always say, save this box. So at home I've got boxes for printer, scanner, mother-in-law. In fact, my house is getting so full of boxes, I may have to move out into a box. Which is going to be difficult with a mother-in-law. Actually, that's not true. She's dead. Now that's really funny, isn't it? But I'm dying. Well, so are you. Hopefully after I do. So it's time to face up to it. Stanley, my brother, I don't know what his idea. I guess he figured that God would take care of everything. Well, God didn't take care of anything. Neither did Stan, so we had a real mess on our hands. But no, think about it and do something about it. I just hope that I live a long time. I On my 100th birthday, I plan to still be in the game. Although I won't know what game. I'm sure I won't know the score. But I'll still be on the bottom, along with the Cleveland Browns. Oh, I modified that joke when I did comedy in Cleveland. I saw an old guy. I was at the produce department at I think it was Bash's or someplace. I was in the produce department, picked out some bananas, and up came old Oscar. Or at least I think that was his name. Because he was such a grouch. Now you young people, you Scout people, you know what I'm talking about. You older people, that's an old guy on TV who's blue. A grouch. Well, anyway, he came up. I said, I hope you find some good bananas. He said, don't want them. Do you like comedy? No. Do you like to laugh? No. I think his name was Oscar because he was behind me in the checkout, and when I left, he said, good riddance. Well, maybe, you know, we can't judge him. Maybe he was, maybe he just lost his wife and forgot where. Or maybe he remembered where. Or maybe he, well, that's enough for that one. I've got some more, but they probably wouldn't be quite appropriate. But so that's the story of old Oscar. I try to eat a healthy diet. I got a hold of some string beans that were so stringy, by the time I finished eating them, I'd already flossed my teeth. I don't know what this hip movement has to do with it. And I go to the gym several times a week. Have you ever noticed the gym? I don't take supplements like creatine. Have you ever noticed the gym, those guys that do have those great big muscles? Well, they have little tiny thumbs. Oh, these guys, you understand, they also have little tiny dicks. Well, I've got little tiny muscles. And a great big microphone. Oh, that's... I went to Walmart, didn't park close to the door, so I could stir up my tired blood as I ran in for a few things. Running back to my van after I made my selection, a kid said, "Hey, Grandpa, how come you're running so fast?" "Well, you would be too, son, if you've been shoplifting." String beans. Well, I did go by the gym, and I've had to quit doing the bench presses because they bolted them all down. Now I can tell you people I haven't pressed any benches. But I had a terrible time with the dumbbells. No, I'm not talking about my ex. I like moans too. Yeah. I had a terrible time getting the 45-pound dumbbells home. You know, the free weights. Put one of those in my gym bag and I was so unbalanced. My ex would say, "Lou, you've always been unbalanced." Thought about putting one in each hand, but then would it look suspicious leaving the gym with two gym bags? And I couldn't run. I went to the machines and I recognized them. All they did is added foam pads and new logos to machines when I was a kid during the Spanish Inquisition. Anybody into history? That was 600 years ago. But have you ever noticed some pictures from the Spanish Inquisition, those old pictures back then, that when I wanted some agony, when I would see some agony, I'd say, I'm going to go down to the dungeon and visit the Inquisitor. You guys say strange things these days. You say, hey, I'm going to go down the street and visit my chiropractor. The Inquisitors would put bodies in impossible positions. Well, when I was a kid, we call it inquisition. You call it torture or yoga. Have you ever noticed the naked subjects from the pictures back then always had a little white cloth covering just the right spot? I was the towel boy. Hey, don't stretch him out yet. I've got the towel here. Shall I do it? Let's hear my applause if you want me to do it. No applause? Okay, I won't do it. Did I hear an applause? All right, all right. Hey, he was going to have a bad day and no chance of a happy ending. I could give him a happy beginning. I was his absolute high point. Oh, I forgot. He was black. Now, that person that applauded back there, it's your fault. I'm not supposed to use that word, though. Black. I even have to get my coffee non-white. Well, let me introduce myself just a little bit here. My name's Lewis, as you already heard. To avoid confusion on my travels in different states, since I'm not the only Lou and I've been confused with other people named Lou, guy said, hey, you're the only guy from Arizona. I'm going to call you Arizona Lou. And the name has stuck for over 30 years. Now, before 1912, I went by Territory Lou. Okay, you people, that's when Arizona became a state. I always have to explain that to people from New Jersey. And before that, I went by Caveman Lou. These keep coming and they get worse. Before that, I went by Ditch Lou. I told you they'd get worse. It was just a little ditch. And then after it grew and grew, Grand Canyon Lou. And before that, Jurassic Lou. Well, I don't want you to believe, some of you, if you've been to my website, you notice that my home away from home when on my comedy tours is a minivan. Well, I don't want you to believe what they tell you about the old guy in a minivan, because I don't have candy. And I haven't lost a puppy, because I don't have one. if something is so vile as pedophilia, I figure the way you can deal with it is to make fun of it. So I could get lots of kids, but I don't. I don't know how I'm going to leave this world, but when I do, I want to leave it going as fast as I can. Having fun. And you'd walk this way too if you lost your balls. I want my obituary to read something like, Arizona Lou died in an avalanche of boxes. I volunteered for a clinical study. Oh, does anybody here know how to drive a stick shift? Okay, I'm not talking about a boner now. Some people call it their hot rod. Well, I volunteered for a clinical study while we're on the subject of Viagra at the University of Longwood. And helping out with science gave me a really good feeling. I expected it to be a lot harder, though. It was one of those double-blind studies. Even the researchers didn't know who was coming. They put us in hospital gowns, and we looked like Tent City. I was the only one without a rigid tent pole. We had lots of fun. We got tired. That was an interesting experience, let's say. I had voice surgery, and it's embarrassing. When my voice goes up high sometimes, I'll say, especially on the telephone, I'll say, hello, may I please speak to the man of the house? I am the man. Or worse yet, I'll say, hello, are your parents home? Yes, I put them up on the mantle. They told me in life to earn everything. And, well, it's been about an hour. You folks are great. Thank you for your hospitality. And I'm still alive. I'm Arizona Lou.
Hey guys, I'd like to thank everybody that came out to support our Scout Troop 919.